Hello there, and welcome back to the Java development course. So, last time we went over getting random and solving problems with Google, and you had some homework to do. So, your job was to look up on Google how we can print a random character in Java. So, this is essentially what you could have done. There are a couple other ways to do it. So, as long as you get the correct result, I don't really care how exactly you did it, but this is just one of the ways to do it, the easiest way, I would say. So I just have a string characters, which contains all the characters I want to print. And then I have a random integer, which is math.random times 62, since that's all the characters. And then I just have system.println chars.char_add and then random. So it'll always give me a random character. We're going to test it out. There we go. So yeah, so it just gives me a random character every single time. So if you got that, very good. If not, if you did something else and it still worked, that's also okay. But yeah, so generally speaking, if you looked it up on Google, spend a couple of minutes, researching it, it should be no problem. So without further ado, then let's get into today's lesson. All right. So today we are going to be going over conditional statements, so decision making in Java. And at this point, it can start to get a little bit confusing. So we're going to be going over it together. We're going to take things very slowly. We're going to take our time, do some exercises with them, do a lot of exercises with them, and hopefully you can get this pretty simply. So we're going to create a new class. This is going to be if in Java. Let's say if in Java. As always, public static void main. And by the way, this is the last time I'm going to be creating a class on camera. So later on, I'm going to have a class already created when I start recording. So yeah, so let's go ahead and finish. And there we go. So we have if in Java. Let's go ahead and delete the comment. All right, so what is an if statement? Well, an if statement is a statement, obviously. And it essentially can do something if a Boolean is true. So let's just say we have a Boolean, okay? Actually, let's create a scanner first of all. Scanner sc equals new scanner system dot in. There we go. Because then we're going to do int a equals sc dot next int. Actually, it automatically imported scanner there. Okay. Then we're going to do int b equals sc. Actually, no, let's just keep it at a. Okay. So what do we need to do now? Well, we want to check if a is more than 5. If it's more than 5, we're going to print a is more than 5. And if it's less than 5, we're going to print a is less than 5. So let's do this. So we're going to do a Boolean. A is more than 5. And that Boolean is going to be equal to a is more than 5. There we go. Okay. So now how do we do this? How do we print a is more than 5 if it is more than 5? Well, we just do if a is more than 5. And then we do system.out.println a is more than 5. All right, there we go. And close off our statement. And there we go. All right, so let's run this. Let's input a number. Let's just say 4. And there we go. As you can see, nothing happens. So why does nothing happen? Well, here, Boolean a is more than 5 is equal to a is more than 5. In this case, a is equal to 4, so this is false. So then we say if a is more than 5, which is false, then we print it. But this one will only execute if whatever is in here is true. And in this case, a is more than 5 is false, since a is less than 5. So in result, we don't print a is more than 5, and it just ends the program. So what if we input 6? There we go. A is more than 5. So what happens? So first of all, int a equals st.nextInt. A is equal to 6, since we inputted 6. Then we have a Boolean, a is more than 5, checks if a is more than 5. In this case, it is, since 6 is more than 5, so it's true. Then if a is more than 5 and a is more than 5 is true, we print system.out.println a is more than 5. So that is how an if statement works. So if we actually just put true in here, there we go, it will always execute no matter what we input. So if we input 3, it'll execute no matter what. So if true, this will execute, and if we put a false in here, it will not execute no matter what we put, as you can see. And actually we get an error, a warning here. It's dead code, which just means that it won't ever be executed. No matter what we do, it won't ever be executed, and there's no point in having it. So now we're just going to have true here. There we go. So that is essentially how we work with if statements. And if statements are actually pretty important. There's a lot of things we can check. And actually, if you really think about it, a lot of what we program is going to be if statements. So for example, we just have a user that's logging into our web application. What we do is we take his username that he entered, and we get, the user name, and then we check for every single person inside our, database. The database is essentially where we store data. It's a it's a different topic altogether than Java. So in general, so we check our database and we do if the username is equal to one that is in the database, then, we get that user and we can try to log him in. And then once we get that user, if he does exist, then we can check if the passwords match. So if password is equal to the one that he entered, so if the password in the database is equal to the one that he entered, then we will perform the logging in operation. And if it isn't equal, then we just return back, incorrect username or password, for example. So that's essentially how if statements are useful, and they are very useful. Okay, so now let's go a little bit over what exactly if statements do and how we can use them. So we don't necessarily need to put an A is more than 5, create a Boolean ahead of time and then put it in. We could actually just do it inside the if statement itself. So A is more than 5. We're going to do it. So just remember that this just returns a Boolean. So we can put relational operators directly inside Booleans. We can also check it as well. So if A equals 5, then we're going to do it. So if we do 5 now, A is more than 5. So in this case, it actually needs to be is equal to. A is equal to 5. And then, so now it's more correct. A is equal to 5. There we go. But generally, you understand how this generally works. So now we can put these operations here. We can also do and operations. So A is not equal to 6, for example. So we can do if A is more than 5 and A is not equal to 6. We'll just print A now. If we put 6 in here, it'll do nothing since A is equal to 6. And if we do 7, it does print A since A is not equal to 6 and it is more than 5. And the same thing if we put 4 in here, since A isn't more than 5, it won't print A. So those are essentially if statements. So now let's create an application together which will utilize if statements in a pretty complex way. Alright, so we're going to write an application which will check whether a number is positive or negative. So we're going to do int a equals sc.extint, and so now what we're going to do is do if A is more than 0, we're going to do system.out.println A is more, A is positive. There we go. And then we're going to do if A is less than 0, we're going to print A is negative. All right, and so now if I do if A is equal to 0, we do system.out.println A is equal to 0. There we go. All right, and so now if we run it, and we do 1, A is positive. If we do -1, A is negative. And then if we do 0, a is equal to 0. So there we go. So that is essentially how we work with if statements in Java. And if statements are, as I said a couple of times, I think in this lesson already, are very important. So if you can get this down, then you'll have a good understanding, and you can get into the next lessons much, with confidence. Lost the word there. Okay, so without further ado then, let's assign you some homework. All right, so for homework, it's also pretty simple. So all we're going to do is check whether or not a is divisible by 10. And then if it is divisible by 10, we're going to print it is. If it isn't divisible by 10, we're going to print it's not. So pretty simple. Try to think about it. Just a quick hint. You're going to use the modulus operator for this one. So yeah. All right. So anyway, I wish you luck, and I'll see you next time. Till soon.